In this tutorial video, we're going to go through how to apply toolpaths in EasyCarve. So for the project example we're going to use, we have already set out the layout for this and set out the size and position for this project as well. If you would like more information on how to lay out the project and the size and position settings, we have tutorial videos that go through this, and I would recommend watching these before watching this tutorial video. To start creating the toolpaths, we will need to click on the toolpaths option here. So the first thing I want to check is I want to click the machine option here to make sure we have the correct machine set up. Now, if you only have one machine set up, you will only see one machine selected. But if you do have multiple machines set up to use on EasyCarve, you will need to make sure you have the correct machine selected so that you are using the correct tool settings when creating the toolpaths. So in this example, I will be using the 2 trees machine. So now we've selected the machine that we're going to use, we can go back to the toolpaths option here. So now that we've clicked on the toolpath option, we can see here we have this option in the top corner. Now if we select this, we can check the material and machine that we have selected to check that this is correct. We can check the job size that we currently have set up and where we are setting the XY origin and Z origin. This will allow us to see if these are correct, and if they are incorrect, we would then need to go back into the size position settings to change this to the correct settings. And we can click off this option, and then the next option we see is the tabs. This will allow us to add tabs to the project if we want to use these to help keep the material in place when cutting this on our machine. To add tabs, you would just need to select the plus option here. And here we can set the size of the tabs, so how wide and how high we want the tabs. If we want to change this, we just need to click into the box and type in the new value we want to use. The next option you can see here will auto-generate tabs onto the model. So if you know how many tabs you want to add, for example, let's say 4, and select the generate tab option, it will try and generate the tabs in the best position on the project you have created, as you can see here. Now, if we don't like where it has positioned the tabs, or we would like to manually add the tabs instead of automatically generating them, we can click on the edge of the project, and this will add a tab in. And we can also click on an existing tab, and we can see here there is a little X next to the icon that we can see by our mouse, and this will remove it. So this will allow us to place the tabs exactly where we want on the project. We also have the option here to remove all tabs. So if we want to start afresh, we can click the remove all tabs option here. And again, we could then decide we want to manually add the tabs in ourselves. So I'm happy where I've positioned these tabs. I can select the option down here to go back to the toolpath list. And here we can see that it's reminding us that we have set tabs to the project and how many we currently have set. We can also remove the tabs from this list as well if we decide we are not going to use tabs to hold down the material as it cuts, if we are going to use a different type of hold down method for the material on the machine. So now that we've set up the tabs, we can now look at adding a toolpath to the project. So if we click the add toolpath option here, you can see we have the option to add a roughing, finish, V-carving or cutout toolpath. So the first toolpath I want to create is the roughing toolpath. So I'm going to click this option here. So first we'll need to select the tool we want to use. For this, I will want to use a 1/4 inch end mill, which as you can see when I click on the drop down menu, we do have the option to edit this, which will take us to our tool database. And we can go back here to the toolpath, and we can also add a new tool if we haven't already added the tool to the tool database, which again, if we click this option, it will take us to the tool database to add the tool. But again, we are using a tool that we have already created, so I just need to select the option here. Again, as I previously mentioned in this tutorial video, if you need further information on how to add a tool to the tool database, I would recommend watching the tool database tutorial video for EasyCarve. So I'm going to select the 1/4 inch end mill, and then the next option you can see here is the machining allowance. So this is how much material will be left after the roughing toolpath for the finishing toolpath to cut away. I'm happy with what we currently have set in this, so I'm going to move on to the next section. So the next section is the raster angle. So this is the angle that the roughing toolpath will cut. So currently it's set at 0 degrees, so it will cut horizontally along the model. We can also select 45 degrees, which will create the roughing toolpath at a 45-degree angle across the project. Or we can select the 90 degrees, which will then create a toolpath that cuts vertically across the project. But for this, I'm going to use the raster angle of 0. And we also see this option here for more settings. If we select this option, we can see the tool settings that we currently have set for the tool we have selected. So the pass depth of the tool, the step over of the tool, and the feeds and speeds for the tool. You are able to manually edit these for just this toolpath if needed by selecting this option, and then this allows you to edit it. But this will only edit these settings for this toolpath. The settings in the tool database will not change for this tool. But I am going to use the settings that I've already set in the tool database. So I'm going to unclick this. And if we want to hide this information, we can select the fewer settings here. Now I'm happy with the settings that I have set, so I can click the calculate option here. So now you can see here that we have a toolpath preview of the toolpath we have just created. If we are not happy with the toolpath it is created, we can go back and select a different tool or different settings. And if we do that, we will need to click on the recalculate option afterwards, so it uses the new settings for the toolpath. There are a couple of other options that we have available as well, which are these two options here. The first option will allow you to change the material that is used in the toolpath preview here. So here you can see we can select a different type of material, or we can select this option here to change it to a solid color. But I'm going to select the original option we had selected. The other option here is to show the toolpath in the preview here. So currently we do not have the toolpath showing, but if we select this option here, you can see here we can now see where the toolpath will cut, represented by this blue line. I'm going to unselect this option again and go back to the main toolpath list. So I'm going to click the option to go back to the toolpath list. As we can see here, the roughing toolpath has now been added to the list. So next we're going to look at adding a finishing toolpath to our project. So again, I'll need to click the add toolpath option. And as you can see, because we've already created a roughing toolpath, it no longer shows on the list. And the next toolpath in the list is the finishing toolpath. So I'm going to click on this. So the first option you see for the finishing toolpath is the drop down option to select the tool you want to use. Again, here you have the option to add a new tool or edit the tool that's currently in the list, but I have already set this tool up so it is correct for the machine material and project that we are cutting. So I just need to select the 1/8 inch bullnose tool. Please note, when creating a finishing toolpath, you will either want to use a bullnose tool or a tapered bullnose tool to create this cut, and the smaller the tool you use, the more detail it will cut, but it will take longer to cut it on your machine. So when selecting the tool for this toolpath, you will need to take in consideration how much detail you want it to cut, but also how long it will take you to cut the toolpath on your machine. And again, we can select a raster angle for the toolpath. So whether we'll have a 0 degree raster angle, which will cut horizontally, a 45 degree raster angle, which will cut at a 45 degree angle, or 90 degrees, which will cut it vertically. For this, I'm going to select the 45 degree angle. And again, we have the more settings option, which will show the tool settings like it did in the roughing toolpath. So I'm going to hide this again as I do not need it, and I'm going to click calculate. And again, we can see that it has now done a toolpath preview of the finishing toolpath, and I'm quite happy with how this is looking. So I'm going to go back to the toolpath list. Now, as we did have text in this project, we will want to add a V-carving toolpath. If you have not added text to a project, you would not need to create a V-carving toolpath. But as we are using text in this project, we will need to create one. So I'm going to click on this option here. Again, I've already set up the VBit tool that I want to use in the tool database with the correct tool setting for this project. The next option for the V-carving toolpath is the flat depth. So the V-carving toolpath will base its cutting depth on the distance between the vectors in the text you have selected and the angled V-bit you are using. A narrower space will give you a shallower cut, so the more space you have in the text, the deeper the tool will cut. Also, if you are using a thinner angled V-bit, that will give you a deeper cut. If you are using a wider angled V-bit, you will also see a shallower cut as well. The flat depth option here can be used if you want to impose a maximum depth to the toolpath. So for example, if you only want the toolpath to cut a maximum depth of 0.1, we can enter this here, and the toolpath may cut shallower than this, but will cut no deeper than the flat depth that has been entered. So for this project, I'm actually going to set this to 0.2 inches for the cut I want to create with the text. And again, we have the more settings option here, which will show the tool settings and allow you to manually edit them if needed. So I'm going to calculate this. And you can see here now we have a toolpath preview of how the V-carving toolpath will look on the model we have just created. Please note, when creating a V-carve toolpath in EasyCarve, the toolpath will follow the surface of the model. So if there is a curve in the model that is underneath the text, the V-carve toolpath will follow the curve when creating the toolpath. Now, looking at the toolpath it's created, I'm happy with this, so I'm going to go back to the toolpath list. So we have one last toolpath that I want to create, which is the Cutout toolpath to cut out the profile of the layout we have created. So I'm going to click this option here. And as you can see, again, the first option in this toolpath is the tool we want to use. I'm going to be using the same tool and settings that I used for the roughing toolpath with the 1/4 inch end mill. Now the next setting we can see is the final pass height. As you can see, this currently is set to 0. So this means that the profile toolpath will cut all the way through the material thickness. Now, say you didn't want the profile toolpath to cut all the way through the material. If you were not using the tabs for the material hold down and need a bit of material around the edge of the project left, you can enter this here. So for example, if I entered 0.2 inches, it would leave 0.2 inches of material at the bottom of the toolpath. For the toolpath we want to create, we do want it to cut through the material thickness, as we have already set up tabs for this project to keep the material in place. So I'm going to change this to 0. Next, we want to select the cut direction. So whether you want to select climb or conventional, this will depend on the tool and material you are cutting to which cut direction you want to use. And again, we have the more settings option, which will show the toolpath settings and allow you to edit this manually if needed. So now we're going to click calculate. So now you can see that it has run a toolpath preview of the Cutout toolpath. And you can see that the Cutout toolpath has left tabs where we set them previously in the toolpaths list. So now we can go back to the main toolpath section. So now after we've created all the toolpaths and we've run a toolpath preview of each toolpath as we've created them, we can see the cut it will create. Now, if we weren't happy with any of these, we could go back into any of these toolpaths to edit them further. So next we're going to look at saving the toolpaths. For this, we will need to go to the export option, which we can access here or down here. So I'm going to click the export option here. So at the top of the export option, again, we can see the material and machine we have selected for this project, the job size where we have set the XY origin and the Z origin, and also the tab count, so how many tabs we have added. This is a good reminder to make sure that the settings are correct and we have selected the correct machine and material that we are using, and that the job size, XY origin and Z origin are all set up correctly before saving the toolpath. We can also hide this by clicking this icon here. The next option on the list is the post processor. So we would need to click the drop down list and select the correct post processor for the machine. Again, if you need additional information on how to add the correct post processor, this is included in the how to set up your machine material and tool database tutorial video. So the next section is the toolpaths we want to export. As we can see here, currently we have all the toolpaths selected, but say you didn't want to save one of the toolpaths, you can just click in the box here and you can see that this has unhighlighted the toolpath, so only these 3 toolpaths will now save. But for this example, I do want to save all 4 toolpaths, so I'm going to click this option again. So now I can export the toolpaths by clicking this option here. We can see here now that it has downloaded the toolpaths for us, so I can click OK here, which I can now see in my downloads file on my computer. You can see here that we have a toolpath for the roughing toolpath, finishing toolpath, V-carving toolpath, and the cutout for the model. Another option you have when exporting the toolpaths is to also export a preview image. So this will export an image of the toolpath preview you are seeing here. So if we click on that option, it will download the image for you, which you should then be able to see again in the downloads folder of your computer. And you can see here that this has created an image of the toolpath preview that can be seen in the EasyCarve software. I hope you found this tutorial video helpful, going through creating toolpaths in EasyCarve and going through how you can export them from the software as well.